Hi everyone, Iris J here with Madrona's Pulse Teachings, and I am chatting with you on an energy forecasting for the astrology of the next 2-ish weeks. I don't always do forecasting. I usually just kind of do the new moon and the full moon rhythm, and then the transits that are happening between. However, there's a lot going on, unless there's a lot going on in a particular month, and there's a lot going on in July. So let's just talk about that a little bit. As I'm recording this, as I'm posting this, we're still coming out of the Capricorn Full Moon energy that was on July 3rd. And so we're shifting out of that. And over the next 2 weeks, there's a lot going on in the cosmos of our psyches, and most of us are probably feeling it in different ways. So the first thing I want to mention is, one of the reasons July is such a big month, not the only reason, but one of, is because the nodes are going to switch signs. So the nodes are in cycles for about every 18 months. And I do have a video just on the nodes shifting into Libra and Aries, which is what they're shifting into, and I'll drop the link below for that. But just talking about it in terms of the energy that's going on, it's actually more important right now that we focus on the fact that we're in the last 2 weeks of the nodes of the South Node in Scorpio and the North Node up there in Taurus. This could bring up stuff. The South Node going through Scorpio is not simple. It is deep. The South Node that's transiting is there to bring up karmic energy, karmic patterning that we're here to release, especially in Scorpio. And so one of the ways to work intentionally with this energy is that we can work with it as an opportunity to cut energetic cords that we know we don't need to carry on with us. And we can just be honest about that with ourselves. We can really look to our dreams. If there's people showing up in dreams that you're kind of surprised that they're showing up, or it's kind of like, yeah, this is showing up for a reason, I think we can have a ritual with ourselves, whether we write it or we literally do the cutting of the cords with our own hands, or if you have a stone that you use, or some people use knives, or just any, or stick, or a rock can be great too. And we just cut those energetic cords. And you can also have someone do this with you, a trusted friend, a healer, a teacher, an energy worker, a therapist that works in these ways. It is something that can come up, and that South Node and its final kind of journey through Scorpio cannot, especially if you have points or angles or planets there, it can bring stuff up. And so just knowing that grief can be coming up, and it wants to come up and it wants to leave. And that is part of us finding those really rooted, that sense of being rooted in the Taurus North Node, wherever that's expanding us in our life. But these are deep, that South Node is deep soul journey. Most likely anyone that's coming up is someone that we've also journeyed with in other timelines, past lives, whatever language you use that works with you, because it's deep. And so all of this is happening so that on July 17th, when we also have our Cancer new moon, the nodes are going to switch, and that North Node is going to move into Aries, and we're going to be working with very different energies there. And that South Node is going to move into Libra. So you could also look at that kind of clearing of that. Scorpio is energetic ties. Scorpio is where we're bonded intimately with other individuals. And so by releasing certain patterns there, it moves us into the Libra work of how we relate relationally, so that those energetic patterns of getting tied in that have been learned from our deep, intimate relations with others don't necessarily come into the way that we are working relationally. Okay, Libra and Scorpio are very different energies, but they do involve other people. And so knowing just in these next 2 weeks that we're moving through, stuff could be coming up, and it's coming up and it's wanting to leave. On the 10th, okay, so kind of in the middle of the cycle of the Capricorn full moon moving into that that Cancer new moon, we have a couple things going on. So Mars, who is journeying with the asteroid Pallas Athena, and let's just take a moment to acknowledge we're talking about, you know, in the mythology, we're talking about two gods of war journeying together. They're moving through the final degrees of Leo, and then they're going to enter Virgo together. Very different energies, but powerful energies, okay? Mars is traditionally that yang energy that allows us to go out and accomplish what we want to accomplish. It's a very strong drive. In Leo, there's a lot of passion in that drive, whatever it is that's showing up wherever we have Leo in our chart. And Pallas Athena is there, also a goddess of war. However, they're both warriors. Mars is more that traditional warrior energy. Athena is our owl of wisdom. She is the strategizer. She can battle. She can hold our own. She's fine there if she has to use her sword. But she also, it's hard not to go into some gender stories about that warrior who just wants to go into it in that traditional male way, and that very wise female goddess who thinks about everything first and strategizes. And so we have this energy together. It's an incredible amount of energy. It's an incredible amount of drive. And it is shifting on the 10th. They move together from Leo, that fire and passion, into Virgo and begin a journey there. And they'll be together for a while, and then they'll separate. But also just to know that especially Mars is very, very different energy than in Virgo, than in Leo. So there is this shift where Mars coming into Virgo is that yang drive, that accomplish it. Instead of it just being this very creative, passionate flair almost, it wants to take on a somewhat meticulous energy in Virgo. It wants, you know, it's coming into an earth sign. It's coming into a grounded sign. Mars can slow down in Virgo, but it's not slowing down in the same way it would slow down in Cancer. It's slowing down so that it can channel its energy into the proper ways that it needs to channel its energy to accomplish what it needs to accomplish. With Athena there too, like Athena and Virgo, we have an incredible strategist, okay? So there is a shift. It's almost like the brakes go on to this really kind of faster energy, so that we can bring this meticulousness to it. Also, if we are someone that is prone to perfectionism, which is part of the Virgo archetype, again, if I'm going to mention that, I like to mention the reason is because part of the Virgo archetype is that it knows the divine can come through into this material plane in anything that we do. And because of that, Virgo in its psyche wants to do it in the proper way, the right way, so that the divine can come in, so that it can sanctify whatever it's working on in the material plane. So that's why it can get attached to perfectionism in the drive of the psyche, often unconscious. And so if we are someone that either has a lot of Virgo in our chart, and then Mars is going to talk to that, and Athena's as well, or if we're someone that in other ways is just if we're someone that can show up with perfectionism, we want to be careful, because Mars and Virgo can cause a bit of anxiety. So that's using your grounding practices, whatever it is. If you have to journal, get in the body, move, the things that work for you, just knowing that Mars and Virgo can shift a bit of anxiety. And that's happening on the 10th. And on the 10th, Mercury is also shifting gears. So on the 10th, Mercury is going to be moving through the final degree of Cancer, which means it's going to be opposite Pluto. Okay. So as Pluto is retrograde and at that final degree of Capricorn, Mercury is going to be opposite, and then it's going to move into Leo. So that's just also knowing that our gears are shifting in terms of that transiting Mercury is the energy of active thinking and how it's talking to us and what's talking to us in our chart. And it's going to move into that Leo, which is very different energy. And that's kind of, that's a passionate Mercury. That's a very creative Mercury. But first it's gonna be opposite Pluto, meaning that it's breaking down, especially on that 29th degree of Cancer. Like Mercury And Cancer is all about supporting us in our inner journeys of self-care and the way that that can come into our communication. It's a much slower energy. And so it's also an opportunity this, this week to really use language and thought and just be mindful about self-care in ways that maybe we haven't been before, because that Pluto breaking down things in Capricorn is really an opportunity to go into those places in which we're really authentically communicating about what we need. And sometimes we need to do that for ourselves first before we can do it with others. Sometimes doing it with others is kind of like, wow, I just did that, and now I understand things that I need in a way that I didn't. And then we can take that and we can go into that passionate Mercury and Leo, and we can get really creative about things that we're quite passionate about. Okay. And then the next, big energetic moment. And again, that's on the 10th. So we're kind of moving through all this energy, these shifting gears, these energetic patterning shifting. And then it brings us to the 17th of July, which is, on the one hand, we have our Cancer new moon. I will have a video on that in and of itself. So I'm not like just mentioning that that's happening. So we're kind of going into a very internal watery place. And what's happening as we do that, the nodes change. Okay, so that is when we're going to have our North Node come into the 29th degree of Aries, noting that we had an eclipse there in April, noting that that's in a perfect square to that Pluto in Capricorn. And then we're going to have our South Node come into Libra at the 29th degree. So that's a powerful day. We're going to be feeling it as we approach it. And then as we come out of it, we're going to be feeling it for quite a bit. So, but just knowing that that might be pulling us into a bit of yin energy. And we want to respect that. And then it keeps going. But as we're kind of integrating that powerful energy on the 17th, we just have a couple other things happening, which is, it is significant that on the 21st, because it's going to be, the sun is going to be finishing Cancer season, and it's going to be coming into Leo season, but that means it's going to be opposite Pluto, okay, on the 21st. So the sun opposite Pluto is big energy, it's significant energy, it's a day to really embrace, especially around kind of those nurturing ourselves energies of really just letting us embody whatever it is that we need to nurture ourselves in deep ways. We're not talking about like I'm tired and therefore I go and I get my nails done. Like I'm that might be a practice that you do, but we're talking about bigger picture things. We're talking about insights into what I need to do to embody a rhythm and a way of being that supports myself in a nurturing way, whether that is accept that I need to change gears in my career, accept that relationships are shifting, accept these are kind of bigger changes because they're in line with that Capricorn shifting in our chart. So the 21st is just a day to know that there's a lot of energy around that is supporting us in the transformation, supporting us as long as we're willing to transform. When we resist, that's when Pluto says, well, we have to transform because it's part of our soul's evolution. And things transform with or without us on board. And then the 22nd, that's when Venus is going to go into its retrograde through Leo. I have a whole other video on that, but just knowing that that's really significant. It's also really significant about these journeys of self-love and self-care, because Venus is really helping us to get in touch with our values that are aligned with our creative self-actualization, in ways that are like deep and juicy for our soul. And this is all, that's happening just as the sun is about to enter Leo. I have a video on Venus retrograde, which I'll also drop the link beneath, but there's just a lot of energy. And then on the 23rd, sweet Chiron, our wounded healer, enters into its retrograde season. And so Chiron going retrograde, other energy that we'll be feeling, especially if you have anything in Aries where Chiron is hanging out, and just knowing that it's, you know, aside from the astro jargon of what everything means, just knowing that it's a lot of going within energy. It's a lot of shifting gears energy throughout July. Sorry, my dog has a cough, and that's what you heard. And so we're just shifting gears and welcoming it and slowing down when we need to. Okay. I hope you are well. Take care.